I have to wait.
Yeah, we just, okay. You're live, yeah. You're
Let me
live.
click that out. Okay. Good morning, everybody. My name is Johnny Caldner. I'm a retired elementary principal from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. I'm also a senior assessor with Blue Ribbon Schools of Excellence. A little bit about myself. I was a middle school teacher, a middle school assistant principal. I was actually the president of the South Carolina Middle School Association. My dream was to become a middle school principal. And then one day in July, I was outside cutting the grass, and I received a telephone call from our assistant superintendent. He told me he needed me to come over to his house as soon as possible. I said, Terry, what's up? He told me, listen, come over to the house and I'll explain. Well, when I got there, he asked me to apply for Forest Brook Elementary School's principal position. I told him, I said, Terry, you're crazy. I had been a middle school person my entire career. I don't know anything about elementary schools, which was not exactly true because my wife was an elementary teacher and I had 3 children. One was in kindergarten, one was in first grade, one was in second grade. So I did know a little bit, but I wasn't too crazy about not being a middle school principal. So anyway, Terry explained the situation. It seems like the previous principal had been very ill and had retired in December. When he retired in December, they sent someone from the district office to finish out the year. Well, what happened was they hired someone for the next year in May. And then in June, he decided he didn't want the job. So then they hired someone again in June, and he let them know in July that he didn't want the job. I should have known. What's up? What's up? Well, the problem was this. Forest Brook Elementary School, out of 23 elementary schools in our district, was the lowest performing school in our district. There was a lot of problems, a lot of issues. But anyway, I applied for the job and I became the Forest Brook Elementary School principal. Now, let me tell you a little bit about the school. It's in Erie County, which is the white colored county on the map. Believe it or not, Erie County is larger geographically than the state of Rhode Island. And Forest Brook Elementary School was about 10 minutes from Myrtle Beach. So very close. It had a free and reduced lunch population of 55%, and it was a Title I school. But now this is what I want y'all to understand. You know, you think Myrtle Beach and you're thinking, oh, you know, you had rich parents and all. Please know, not one of my parents was a doctor, an attorney, an architect, an engineer. My parents didn't own the restaurants and the hotels in Myrtle Beach. My parents worked for those people, just hard-working people. You know, they wanted a better education for their children than what they had had. One of the first things I did as principal was I decided, you know what? I'm going to talk to every single staff member and ask them 2 questions. And this happened the first week I was there. 1, tell me, what things at Forest Brook Elementary School do you really like? And 2, if you were the principal of Forest Brook Elementary School, what are some things that you would change? So I got a lot of information, but the thing that was scary was everybody was talking about how great Forest Brook was. And I'm thinking to myself, the lowest performing school, elementary school in our district, and they're saying how great, how fantastic, how wonderful the school was. I just saw some issues, but then I started thinking, really wasn't their fault. They didn't know what a good school really looked like. So the first 3-4 months on the job, I had located 10 schools in our state that were looked upon as being outstanding schools, just great schools. So what I would do, I would take small groups of teachers and send them to these schools. Every teacher got to go to a school. They had this job. I want you to look and find things at these schools that we could do that would make us better. And two, I want you to take photographs of everything. Take those photographs and let's bring them back to the school. Well, they started doing that, and they were excited, and they started seeing what great schools looked like, what great schools felt like. They would come back to the school, and in meetings in the media center, they would share what they had seen, share the photographs, and we would chart the different ideas that they had discovered. Well, it was just great. It was a great experience. This is exactly what happened. I had my own vision for what Forest Brook should be. I mean, I could see it. I could feel it. I just knew what it should be. But it was during these conversations that we would have with the teachers that I started changing some of my ideas because they were better. But not only that, the teachers were buying in to this vision. They started really having ownership in the school for the very first time. They started feeling empowered because we were listening to what they were saying. And we slowly changed this school that was the very bottom in our school district to one of the very, very best schools in the state. In fact, Forest Brook Elementary School was named a 3-time National Blue Ribbon School in a 11-year period. That's the federal program. We also became a Blue Ribbon School of Excellence Lighthouse School, as well as Palmetto's Finest. That's an award given to outstanding elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools. And in South Carolina, only 2 schools are named to that award. So this was the beginning. This was some of the things that we did to really make a difference. I'm going to talk to you about. But first, I want to share with you some of our test scores to show you what we did. Now, this was the very last year when I was at Forest Brook. It was not our very best year, but it was it will give you an idea of exactly how we were doing. Now, if you look at the scores, the way they were scored, it's exemplary, met, and not met. And then you can see how our schools scored, how elementary schools with students like us scored. And again, how they determined that was a 5% range that was schools like you. And then the bottom was our state. Well, you can look at our English language arts scores and you could tell that, 65.1% of our students scored exemplary on they called it the PASS test, the Palmetto Assessment of State Standards test. And you can see how well we did. The next slide will show you our math scores. 77% of our students scored exemplary. Look, schools like us, 47%. So 30% of our kids scored higher in math than schools like us. So you have a pretty good idea there of exactly how we were doing. And again, know that we went from being the very lowest performing school. In 4 years, we were the highest performing school. The 5th year, we were the highest performing school. The 6th year, the highest performing school. In fact, after that 6th year, guess what our district decided to do? They decided that we no longer were going to receive Title I funds. They took every penny of Title I funds from me. That's over $115,000. That quick was gone. But they said, keep doing what you're doing. Well, they didn't understand that a lot of what we were doing was because of how we were spending our Title I money. But they felt like they wanted to give that to schools that they thought needed it more. The next slide is writing. Again, not as good as math, but you can see again how we did compared to schools like us, and then how we did compared to the state. Again, we were happy. We were very happy. We always thought, let's try to be the very best school in the state when it comes to student achievement. Well, I'll be honest with you, it didn't happen. We never were able to get to where we were the top achieving school in our state. However, we were always generally in the top 10. And the thing that is great to me is if you knew the schools on this list, a few of them are magnet schools. All right. The other schools on the list, almost every one of them had a free and reduced lunch population of 15% or less. And we're on that list with 55% of our kids on free and reduced lunch. I felt great about that. We were, our kids were actually they were performing as well as students whose parents were the doctors and the attorneys, the architects and the engineers, and the owners of restaurants and the hotels. Now, my very last year at Forestbrook, there's an organization called the Best Schools. They basically evaluate and then rank schools based on how well they are. Well, Forestbrook Elementary School was one of the 50 best public elementary schools in the United States, according to them. We were the only South Carolina school included on the list. That was a great way for me to retire. I was very, very happy with that. And our staff and our kids celebrated. Okay, so now you've seen what we did as far as results. How did we do it? What strategies did we as leaders of Forestbrook Elementary School embrace to create student and school success? Well, the 10 brain compatible elements. That, in my opinion, made the biggest difference in what we accomplished. This is the thing that you need to understand, though. Our teachers, every teacher on our staff went through a 3-day intensive training. But not just that 3 days. After that, the training was ongoing. We wanted to be great. We wanted to be the best. We wanted our kids to really succeed. I've told the story that, when I first got there, teachers would make excuses about why students didn't achieve. And even though you saw our test scores earlier, my teachers always knew if 4% of our kids didn't meet the standard, I didn't like it because I felt like we had failed. And I would tell them, I said, what if one of those kids were your kid? What if that was the case? How would you feel? We have got to figure this out. If we can't come through the front door, then we need to come through the back door. And if we can't get through the front door or the back door, then we crawl through the windows. We have to figure out what we need to do to make sure that every child was going to meet our standard. Learning for everyone, no matter what it took. You let me know as the principal what you need, and I will get it for you so that every child was going to meet the standard. But let's talk about the 10 brain compatible elements. I'm not going to go and read every line because we'll see that later. But enriched environment, meaningful content, choices.
Sorry,
Choices: absence of threat, nurturing, reflective thinking. Adequate time, collaboration, immediate feedback. Now, this I'm going to talk about because we're not going to talk about it later. I'm just going to say this to the teachers and to the administration. Please, accurate and immediate feedback is needed at the time of the learning. You know, if you have teachers that are sitting at their desk and the kids are doing seat work, you're missing out. That's when that feedback needs to happen. When children make mistakes and then the teacher has to correct those mistakes because that student has made them multiple times, it's very hard to get them back to where they would have been if that teacher would have corrected the mistake immediately. So again, that's one that you really need to make sure that your teachers, we would tell our teachers, keep your roller skates on. Keep your roller skates on because you need to be moving around that classroom. And then mastery and application. And then being their experiences, immersion, and then movement to enhance learning. Those are the 10 brain compatible elements that we feel like made the biggest difference in our school. You know, when I talked to the staff that first week and asked them what they thought was great and what they thought could improve, this was the one. They talked about the environment, that the environment was not what it should be. And the learning environment should be an inviting, warm, comfortable, and safe setting. Let's see what a difference an enriched environment makes. This was Forest Brook Elementary School. Not when I actually drove up. This picture was taken in March. I drove up the first week in August. Look at it. Does that not look like a nursing home? I mean, it is so much like a nursing home. It is unbelievable. I didn't have a clue even how to get to the front office. Not only that, when I'm walking up the sidewalks, every door in the building was solid metal door. It looked like a dungeon. When you walked into the school, it didn't sterile. It wasn't even close to being sterile. It was terrible. It felt like a nursing home. It smelled like a nursing home. It was bad. So let me show you some of the things we did. All right. This gives you an idea of some of the front. The bottom picture actually gives you a broad view of it, but the top picture, again, that was the entrance. You actually could see that it had changed a little bit, had gotten more kid-friendly, more parent-friendly, more teacher-friendly. All right, now the bottom picture. Let me show you these round plaques that are on the wall. In South Carolina, you are given a gold award. And for 15 consecutive years, our school received the gold award for student achievement. But the thing that I'm most proud about, for 15 consecutive years, we also received the gold award for closing the achievement gap. Now, the picture that's on top of that, that's actually a waterfall. I was on one of the visits to a school in Columbia when the teachers went. Well, I was sitting in the media center looking out. They had just a waterfall there that was just, I thought, wow, would that not be great to have at our school? So I took a couple pictures of it and all. And when I got back to the school, and that was one of the things that we were discussing, one of the teachers came up to me after the meeting and said, Johnny, let me have a couple of these pictures of the fountain. I think there's something that I can do there. Well, her husband had a friend and they worked it out so that we actually had this fountain put at our front entrance. You can see the right side, but you really can't see the left side because of the plants and all. But it went across our front, and it was so neat, so relaxing when you came up to the school. And you can see on the bottom picture, the solid metal doors. Listen, one of the first things that pleaded with was to put in glass doors so that it looked just a lot more friendly than the dungeon doors, as we used to call them. Okay. Now, I know some of you might not be able to do this because of just how things are in your state, but in South Carolina, we can celebrate the holidays, like we want to. This is what happened. At the end of the school year one year, probably about my third or fourth year, I called the art teacher into the office, and I told her what I was after. I said, Jane, I said, let me tell you, I want the holidays to be special here. I want to be able to put up displays and all that the kids would love. Almost Disney-like, Jane. That's what I'm looking for. I want that feel. And I told her, I said, I will pay you a stipend. And I says, I want you to come up with the idea that you think fits with what I told you. Well, this is what she came up with. When you walk into our school the Monday after Thanksgiving, my wife and I had come in and we had set up the entire school using her characters. They're made from carpet tubes. And again, I gave her my credit card. I told her, I said, Jane, buy whatever it takes. I want you to have something special. And this is what she did. And I think that, if you could have seen the look on our kids' faces that Monday after Thanksgiving, our teachers' faces, our parents, they just thought it was unbelievable. And I thought it was great myself. But please know, we also had Hanukkah displays and Kwanzaa displays. All right. So we were trying to celebrate all of the holidays. And something else, look on the bottom photograph and you can see part of the mural on the left and you really can't see much of it on the right. Well, that was a part of our entrance. These were the paintings that we put on for our mural. I call them warm and fuzzy. It just gave just an unbelievable feel when you walked into our school. Our school changed from being a sterile, really a place that you didn't want to be, to a place that you didn't want to leave because of what we had done to make it, again, almost Disney-like to our kids and our staff. In our cafeteria, we had a multicultural theme. We're all one family under the same sky. And you can see murals on both sides as we go down. Now, we also put flags of the different countries up in our cafeteria. If you look at the far end, you can see Panther Den Cafe. We had a contest and it was named the Panther Den Cafe. Now, principals, I'm just going to tell you something. If you want to get a lot of brownie points with your teachers, this is what I did. I went to our cafeteria manager because our participation for adults was almost non-existent for lunch. So went to the cafeteria manager and I told her, I said, Laura, this is what I want. I want a salad bar, I want a potato bar, and I want a soup bar. The soup bar actually just turned out to be a kettle of soup, but the potato bar and the salad bar, it happened along with the soup. And the teachers went wild. They thought that was the best thing in the world. Our participation in our cafeteria went from probably 10% to well over 75%. Again, just something little, but it was so appreciative by the staff. And again, all of this helped our kids feel special at our school. In our hallways, we also had what we called our ocean hallway. The ocean hallway was actually, think about walking on the floor of the ocean. This bottom right-hand side, you can see like you're walking on the floor of the ocean. What kind of animals might you see? If you look at the photo on the left was still a part of the hallway of the one on the right. You can see a manatee mailbox. Well, on the other side of that manatee mailbox was a dolphin fountain that we had. And then one of our 5th grade teachers, she actually made tile benches. So we had a bench for manatee, we had a bench for dolphins, and also a bench for whales. Again, just making it something special for our kids, more child-friendly. Not only that, we play music in the hallway. On this particular hallway, you would hear the waves pounding. You would hear classical music along with those waves. It was just something that was very, very special to everyone. All right, this was probably my favorite. It was the Salt Marsh. And the Salt Marsh, actually, you can see. We had this painted, but then we 3D'd it. I had the custodian make, you can see the boat docks on the bottom picture and the one on the top left. You can see the boat that we had cut in half and then made shelving to display student artwork. But this, if you look in the top left, you can see that where the boat is, that was just a block little building right in the center of the hallway. Well, not the center, but it was in the hallway, and it just didn't make sense. So we had a contest. What should it be? One little girl said it should be a bait shop. So we actually made that look like a bait shop. We put the awning. The windows are actually screened. The door is actually a screen door. We put a fishnet on the side, and then we put windows made out of mirrors so that when the little kindergarten students would walk by, they would see people moving and all, and they thought people were in there. But again, something special. All right, this was the river scene, and again, just something different. And that's me. Listen, I didn't mind painting. I wanted to create a Disney-like atmosphere for our children. This is a rainforest that we did. All right, you can see in the bottom right-hand photo, you can see where we put trees and plants and all to make it feel like a rainforest. On the top left-hand side, that's actually a fountain that was in one of the corners of the rainforest with plants all around it. Again, making it realistic. The Myrtle Beach coastline. Half of our county is actually rural and farmland. So we did the farm life. All of these were habitats, either animal habitats or people habitats. Okay, this is our media center. And again, we just wanted to make it kid friendly with the stuffed animals and all. This was the hub of our school. That's exactly what we wanted. Classroom environments. Now, I'm just going to go through these just to show you, but the kind of things that I want you to see is this. You do not see clutter. There was no clutter in our rooms. Not to begin with, it was bad. In fact, there was one situation where we had a kindergarten teacher who was wonderful, but her room was so bad that one morning I saw a child walking in. I grabbed him and we go down. He had been absent for 2 days. I grabbed him. I walked down to the teacher's classroom, walked in there, and then when Robin got in to the classroom that morning, I said, Robin, we found Robert. He'd been lost in your classroom for 2 days. That's just an idea. Again, teasing with her, but again, that's the kind of thing that I wanted you to know. No clutter, zero, not on the walls, not anywhere. You can look and see how the environments were, and again, a couple of these pictures are at the beginning of the year. So it's, you don't really get the same feel as later, but there were things that were put on the wall, but you can see how organized everything was. Again, look at the colors. Look at the colors. The colors coordinate. And you don't have the bright reds and the bright oranges and yellows. All of these colors are soothing. And that's what you want. Kids who have a little hyper, sometimes colors don't help them. When you overstimulate their brain, it doesn't help. Also, that's a reason why you don't want everything up on the walls. It overstimulates the brain. All right, again, you can just get a good idea. If you look at the top picture, you see how the fabric is covering that table. Wonder why? I guarantee you under that table, there's probably clutter. There's stuff underneath there, but you don't see it. All right, again, just a good idea. You can see the bottom right-hand corner of a small group instruction, a place where that can take place. But again, I think you get a good idea of what the classrooms look like. Okay? All right. Now, that's all right. Here you can see the cloth on the cubbies. Wonder why? Again, it hides a mess. You know, it just is you don't see it. Again, you can see the curtain over the cubbies. But again, you get a good feel for what the classroom actually looks like, but how it feels. Again, on the left, it's the Smarty Pants talking about the multiple intelligence. And then on the right, the school library. If you look, we see a lot of plants and a lot of lamps. Why? Well, fluorescent lights sometimes can be tough for adults and kids even. We were fortunate in our school that we could put it like halfway, and we would supplement that light with lamps. Why the plants? Plants give off oxygen. That's what we breathe in. Again, just something that we felt like helped our kids. Just a good overview of several classrooms. Again, you see where the curtains are covering up some of our junk. All right, this is one that I want to do, okay? And I wished I would be able to stand up and do this, but I don't think I'm going to be able to. But I want to show you. Movement is so important. All right, you can stand up. Take your arms and lift your arms to the side. All right, and just say lever, 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 okay? Remember that, because what we're doing, we're going to talk about the 6 simple machines. And instead of kids having a worksheet or something, have them stand up and say, lever. All right, now I want you to think about a flagpole. Think about a flagpole. At the top, there's a pulley, right? So, pulley, you're pulling the rope down. So, lever, pulley, lever, pulley. Incline plane. Now, when we say incline plane, we're actually talking about a ramp, all right? So, incline, you lean back, ramp, or plane, you go straight. Incline plane. So you have lever, pulley, incline plane. Now, a screw. Now, your fingers are actually the threads on the screw. Okay? So, lever, pulley, incline plane, a screw, a wheel and axle is next. You take your hand, and then the wheel goes around the axle. So you have lever, pulley, incline plane, a screw, wheel and axle, and then The last of the 6 simple machines, a W, because we all know simple machines help you with work. And you take your hand, a wedge works too. A wedge works too. So now we're going to put it to music, just a little. And I'm sorry, I'm not a great singer, but I think it's something that you can do. So everybody, make sure you stand up and let's do this. Lever, pulley, incline plane, a screw and wheeling axle, a screw and wheeling axle. A wedge works too, a wedge works too. All right, let's do it one more time. Lever, pulley, incline plane, a screw, a wheeling axle, a screw, a wheeling axle, a wedge works too, a wedge works too. Again, just a simple song with movement. And I'm telling you, kids remember. You can walk into our classes and you'll see kids doing things. And you're thinking, what are they doing? Well, they're remembering songs or they're remembering the movements that they had during the instruction. It's so much better than a worksheet, so much, especially with your most needy kids. All right. Being their experience, immersion. Okay, again, besides the use of teachable walls to enrich the school, the class environments, teachers use immersion to enrich student learning opportunities. All right, something that we started it's called the Panther mini store. This was completely manned by our 5th grade students. I went to Kroger, spoke with the manager, told them what we wanted to do was have a school store, and could they help us with the shelving? Well, they provided all of the shelving for this store. They provided the conveyor belt there. They provided the cash register. They gave us the aprons and all. Plus, they gave us $200 to get the store started. This store is completely operated by the kids. They have to fill out an application. They have to go through an interview process to get jobs in the store. They run it. I tell them you can operate it as long as you stay out of the red. And they do a great job. They decide what school supplies will be going in there. They decide what the price is going to be, what the markup's going to be. They're just wonderful. And like I said, it's been a hit at our school. In fact, it was so successful. If there was some way that I could have worked around one of these malls that had an empty shop with insurance, I'd have tried to open up a branch at a local mall. Okay, this is the lady that did the painting and all for us. She was one of our parents who she put that up there to make it look more like a real store. Kids loved it. They loved it. Okay, this is our Science Safari School Science Museum. And what it was a museum that our 5th grade students operated. They were what we called tour guides. When we would open this up in the morning for the younger kids and all, they would come in, and the tour guides, they were the ones who would answer questions about the different animals that we put in here. All of the animals that you see came from people in our community. Listen, this was a hit for our kids that were hunters and fishermen. They loved this. And again, some of the animals that were in here, I mean, look at the bear. Where do you get a black bear at in Myrtle Beach? This snake, the bottom left-hand corner, that was a rattlesnake that still had its fangs. Kids thought that was unbelievable. We had coyotes, we had foxes, we had armadillos, we had all kind of fish, alligator heads, taxidermied heads. it was so neat to see it. And the kids loved it. This was the thing, though. The kids who were the tour guides, they had to research everything in here, everything. And if they didn't know the answer to a question that the younger kids may have, then they had to research, find the answer, and then report back to the student. This is just another immersion, but it's in the classroom immersion. You can see a social studies table that would be the thing that, or the standard that was being studied. You can see the science. On the bottom right-hand side, you can see it's the South Carolina regions. And then on the left-hand side, when they were discussing gullahs, this would be food that would have been eaten. Study trips. Instead of field trips, we call them study trips because they were always, we had to tie them to our standards. This was our first trip to Florida. Our school for 20 plus years, we have taken our students to Florida for 3 days to swim with the manatees. This was the first group. And actually some of these folks are not our kids because it was another school and our school going together to experience this. They were gifted and talented kids. And I was asked to go because my son was one of the students in the class. So I was asked to be a chaperone. Well, we went. And let me tell you, it was unbelievable. I just cannot tell you how wonderful this was. We go to Crystal River, Florida, and the first day we go to Homosassa Springs. It's a wildlife park and all, and then the next morning we snorkel, and you look, and I know what you're thinking. How can you do this? Well, know this: kids, when they're in these wetsuits, they're going to stay on top of the water. All right, they are safe. I could pull you down underneath the water, and when I let go, you're going to pop right back up to the top. And every child in our school, because on the way home from that trip, let me just say this. On the way home, I sat there and I said, every single kid deserves this, not just our gifted and talented kids, every kid. And guess what? We made it happen. We made it happen. Went back, talked to the teachers. They were gun-ho. We knew it was going to be a lot of work, but it was something that we felt like we could do. And it was. We actually, after school, would arrange and take kids to a local dive shop that we worked with. They were the ones who actually were over this entire trip for us. So we would go to a local dive shop. They had a 15-foot dive tank inside, and our kids would learn how to snorkel. They would, it was wonderful, so that when they got down to Florida, they would know what they were doing. So it really, really worked out great. And our kids loved it. They loved it. And in fact, they're still doing it. Now, this is the first year in 20 plus years that they haven't they're not going to be able to go because of the COVID. I do want you to know this, all right? 2 things kids had to do in order to go on this trip. 1, you had to do your personal best academically. That didn't mean making straight A's or A's and B's, but it meant that you were giving effort, you were turning in your homework assignments, and that's was going to be the expectation, that you were giving your best. 2, if you can't behave at Forest Brook Elementary School, there's no way that I'm taking you to Florida. So personal best behaviorally was also one of the things that we told them. And we would we met with all of the 4th grade parents to let them know about the trip so that they would understand exactly what to expect. And again, we also stayed in touch. If kids were not performing academically or behaviorally what we felt like was their personal best, we also let them know that as well. This is just some pictures of the trip. Think about it. You're in the water. All of a sudden, a 10 to 12 foot, 2,500 pound creature comes swimming up to you. Well, the next thing you know, just like these two girls here, petting the manatee. It's not unusual for that manatee just to turn over. What's he doing? He wants you to scratch his belly. That's just a good idea. Another thing that on the bottom right, we actually take the students up. There's a river called Rainbow River, and we take the students up Rainbow River. We drop them off, and they drift snorkel back in water that is clearer than drinking water. It is unbelievable. You get to see fish. You get to see turtles. You get to see alligator gar, which is a fish. You actually see the spring water coming up through the sand, calling it popcorn spring, where it's coming up through the sand. It's just, again, just an unbelievable experience, and one that when I left, there was concern that is the next principal going to do it? Well, I can tell you, if the principal hadn't done it, they probably would have been run off very quickly, because the parents, kids in kindergarten are waiting to go on this trip because maybe a brother or a sister has gone. When you actually have a manatee encounter, and again, that top left-hand photo is exactly how you feel. It's wow, wow. Other places that we went, Fort Sumter and the State Aquarium in Charleston. We have Ripley's Aquarium here in Myrtle Beach. On the right-hand corner, Thompson Farm, which is a farm in Conway that had a number of different activities for kids to participate in and learn. And then the left-hand side, listen, that's a 4-year-old kindergarten class. Do you know that over half of those kids, even though we're 10 minutes from the beach, had never seen the beach? That's just sad, but that's the way it is. Play Card Environmental Center was in our county. And again, it gives you a number of activities that you can do. But the one that our kids liked the best was our 4th graders actually spent the night in teepees and cooked over an open fire. Absence of threat, nurturing reflective thinking. Again, a safe learning environment free of anxiety where no threat is present and students feel safe to share, learn, explore, and exist. And you know, I'm just going to say this. Other children are responsible for some of this threat. But there are adults in buildings that are just as responsible, if not even more so. Principals, you have got to do your job to make sure that's not happening. And if it means telling a teacher or a staff member that they're on the wrong bus, then that needs to happen. You cannot let it happen. You can't. From our 4-year-old kindergarten through 5th grade, we have a common language, and that's our life skills. They are posted in every single classroom. We have a life skill of the week, but you need to model these. They need to be modeled by the adults, and they also need to be modeled by, or kids in the classroom can do that. When they're modeled by adults, you need to, you think about it. Your kids are watching you. You know, when you're dealing with students or parents or colleagues, or they're watching you. So you need to make sure that you're modeling these life skills. When you see a child that is doing the life skill, please make sure you let them know, wow, great job, just a great job. But again, 4-year-old kindergarten to the 5th grade, we've got every has up something called lines. truthfulness, trustworthiness, put downs, and personal best. Those are the four. And then the one listening, listen with your ears and with your eyes and with your heart. Preach these to we want this to happen. You've got a common language from kindergarten, 4-year-old kindergarten, 5th grade. Sure does make it when you're talking to kids, life skills that maybe they're not doing or the lifelong. Folks, let me tell you, classroom procedures need to be put in a binder, and maybe for each learning club. We do cooperative learning, so we have our classrooms are set up for learning clubs. But with that, there are procedures. And with those procedures, listen, they're not something that we do at the beginning of the year. Procedures need to be introduced, modeled, practiced, reviewed, practiced, reviewed, practiced, reviewed. I don't care if it's May and students aren't following procedures. You need to practice and review with them. And we had procedures for everything. We had hallway procedures, bathroom procedures, cafeteria procedures, auditorium procedures, and you had procedures in your own class. But the bottom line was, the expectation is that kids are going to follow the procedures. And you can dramatically reduce discipline referrals if procedures are fluent and secure. Agendas. All right. The agendas, again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but it's a map of what's going to happen during the course of the day. Here's another example of an agenda. Again, kids want to know what's happening. Choices. All right. I'm going to tell you, choices are important. Let me tell you right now, I see too many worksheets. And it used to be paper, but now it's become electronic. Your most needy kids, folks, I'm telling you, you're making a mistake if that's what you're doing. Give your kids choices, all right? Give them choices like draw a picture, write a song or a poem, label a map, write a paragraph, a sculpture, a digital slideshow, maybe a website. Give them choices instead of the same. Have a choice board where there are different choices for them to choose instead of a worksheet, be it paper or electronic. One of the things I'm also going to talk about is choices during your fine arts programs, art, music, PE, and this was just one that we did with Project Adventure. I was a Project Adventure trainer, and this was actually built on our site because our assistant superintendent wanted me to continue training teachers and administrators. Well, it's a 5-day training. I couldn't do this, the Project Adventure training, and be a principal. But anyway, we got the course, so we continued to use it. And not only during PE time, but after school as a club as well. And these are just some examples of Project Adventure. All right, now your fine arts. Let me tell you something. Again, don't just let your kids sing for music and that be it. Give them opportunities. We got steel drums, and we had steel drums during music time, but we also had after school clubs. Guitars, again, the music teacher came to me. She wanted me to buy 30 guitars in cases for the students. Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I was a little worried to begin with, but talked to the PTA, and we decided to fund it. Listen, you should hear them when they start. Oh my gosh, it's pretty bad. But as the year went on, they got better and better and better. And I used to just come and sit in the class so I could hear them play. And this is the thing that I will tell you. Again, I would tell them, folks, if they had guitar when I was in the 4th or 5th grade, I would not have been a principal. I would have been a rock star. And I believe that because, again, I just thought it was wonderful. Keyboards on the bottom. Keyboards on the bottom. And I can tell you this, that with the keyboards and the guitars and with the steel drums, I'm not telling you that they helped our math scores, but I think there is a correlation there. I think that, kids that the more they're involved with music and all, I think they tend to have higher levels of math. And we were trying to give them that. But this is something else that I want you to know. It's not right just to have after-school clubs for these kids. How about you kids that ride buses and can't do it? Have a club day. Have a club day. One day a month for an hour so that every kid in your building has an opportunity to be in a club or something that they enjoy. Fine arts, again, I can't tell you how wonderful our fine art performances were. But when these kids went on to the middle school and the high school performing, and then a lot of them, even more, it was just wonderful. Our art teacher, I've already told you how phenomenal she was. These are just clays. We started out with one kiln and we ended up with 3 because of the work that she did. Robotics, again, I just think this was wonderful for our kids. This was the first year, my last year's principal. They competed at the state championship with elementary and middle schools, and we finished 3rd, which was unbelievable for it being their first year. You can't work harder, just smarter. Okay, collaboration, you can see this, but we're running out of time. But just know, again, 2 heads are better than 1. I'm telling you, it's better. Common planning and professional learning communities. We gave our teachers at least once a month and sometimes twice a month, 2 hours of time where they met with our curriculum coach to become better teachers. Principals, spend your money making sure that your teachers are the very best they can be. These are just examples of that. Different collaborative situations here. Next one. Coaches, our district had coaches. I hate to say this, but they actually came to me with two of my coaches. They wanted 2 of my teachers to become district coaches. And then the next year they came back and got 2 more. Our elementary section had 4 district coaches, of which all 4 came from our school. Adequate time. Listen, find time. Look at your schedule. If you can find 5 minutes a day, 5 minutes a day, that works out to only be 25 minutes a week. But if you figure that up during the course of the year, that's little over 2 days. What we did, listen, I did this. I didn't ask for permission. Our school day started at 7:45. I moved it to 7:40, 5 minutes earlier. At the end of the day, it ended at 2:25. I moved it to 2:30. That's 10 minutes. Guess what? That with 5 minutes that you might be able to find in your schedule somewhere, that's 15 minutes. Do you know that that works out to be almost 7 days extra of instruction? We also, our buses got to school at 7 o'clock because they had to run a middle school route. Guess what we did? I said, let's take those kids and let's put them in computer labs. We set up 4 computer labs, 25 computers each. Every morning, our kids would get off the bus at 7 o'clock, and for 30 minutes, they worked with classified aides that had been trained by our curriculum coach on how to use Compass. And they actually did a wonderful job. And think about it. You've got 100 kids, 100 kids. If they got 2 or 3 more questions right on your state assessment, what a difference that might make. But not only that, the kids were actually learning. They were learning more. Is it better than teachers? No, it's not. But you know what? I couldn't afford to pay teachers. Okay. Work hard and have faith in your dream or your vision. Someday your rainbow will come shining through. Okay? If you have any questions, anything at all, you call this number 843-997-8100, or send me a text message with your number and I will respond to you. Or my email address, CalderJohnny, and that's L, not a 1, but an L, at iCloud.com. Listen, I hope you enjoyed the presentation. Thank you. Have a wonderful day. Wait.